Awesome. Thank you, sir, for your warm welcome, and thank you guys for attending our talk. My name is Henry Reed.
And my name is Gabrielle de Assis, and it is our pleasure to present Sierra to you this afternoon. Now, before we discuss our project, here's some background information on a real-life security problem and what we're trying to solve using Sierra. A Ponemon Institute study on insider threats found that insider threats cost commercial entities around $8.7 million per year. As a result, corporations need the ability to track employees' communications to avoid losing trade secrets. We also have examples of individuals such as Edward Snowden, Henry Fries, and Kevin Malloy, whose actions in revealing proprietary information cause harm to the public. And current spyware is lacking in addressing insider threats.
We've also taken a look at prior spyware before developing our own to kind of see what the environment was like. It's important to note, however, that companies don't go around saying how their spyware works because that goes against the whole spy part of the spyware. But there was a case of Cyberbit, which is an Israeli-based cybersecurity company being investigated by a college in Canada. And the college was able to find out that not all the exfiltrated intelligence was actually encrypted, which is pretty bad. They were leaking intelligence they were gathering. The command and control server was actually accessible from the internet while logging in. Some of the spyware binaries leaked. And the university researchers were able to conduct counterintelligence by gathering attribution against Cyberbit, gathering the victim list and monitoring the frequency of communication. Obviously, in our work, we wanted to avoid all of these things. And another thing to note is that a lot of these software use beaconing as a method of communication. Beaconing is a type of network communication that essentially, based on a time interval, goes out to the command and control server and says, this is the data I have, do you have any commands for me? And it does this over and over again, given a time interval. This kind of behavior can be very easily detected by intrusion detection software like Rita, and we wanted to avoid that kind of network behavior.
Our proposed solution is to allow corporate entities, law enforcement, and government agencies, provided that proper authorization has been acquired, the ability to covertly monitor employee/target communications, be able to exfiltrate that information without detection and securely store that data, and provide investigators with a way to easily analyze collected information. For our development approach, we follow the Agile method, and we divided our work into 2-week sprints. And we had at the beginning of the sprint a meeting for solidifying goals and work assignments. We then had 3 additional debriefs throughout the sprint to discuss progress and any obstacles encountered. We would test the completed functionalities on a virtual machine, and during the last session of the sprint, we would display work completed and discuss any adjustments needed before the next sprint began. So let's talk about design and methodology. Sierra has 2 major divisions, the enemy network and the blue network, connected through our communication channel. Within the enemy network, we have the Sierra client, which spies on the enemy machine and temporarily stores acquired information on an encrypted database because our communications are staggered. So this means that the Sierra client needs to be able to hold information for an unknown period of time. When the user goes online, exfiltration begins using Reddit and Google Drive, which, if analyzed, would show up like normal browsing behavior. The blue network, which has a Sierra server, continuously monitors the data exfiltration link and has the ability to send commands to the Sierra client. It acquires data, decrypts it, and re-encrypts that data, which investigators can view using the GUI.
So now I'll go over some of the more awesome ways that we were able to acquire intelligence. The things that we're acquiring include Gmail emails, Discord text conversations, and Discord voice calls. We're using Discord as a kind of a proof of concept. I'm aware that there's more chat services than that. We're also exfiltrating cookies and passwords, browsing history. We're doing key logging, webcam shots, and screenshots. So some of the acquisition methodologies as such. For the Gmail emails and Discord text convos, what we do is we actually create a fake custom certificate authority certificate, and we embed it into the operating system. Then we conduct a man-in-the-middle attack. So essentially what happens is when a user browses a website such as Gmail, they receive encrypted data and they see that it is encrypted and that it is signed. But what happens is they received our version of the signed data, and we look at the original data. We take a look at it, we scrape it for emails or we scrape it for text conversations, we send that over, and then we re-encrypt and send it back to the user, and the user doesn't know anything. For the browser cookies and passwords. The Windows operating system has a crypto module, which has a built-in vulnerability that Microsoft refuses to fix because they believe it is not a vulnerability. But essentially, if you cleverly ask the API, please unlock this thing without me giving you a password and without asking for user interaction, the Windows API will say, yep, here it is, and it decrypts the AES encrypted cookies and passwords and gives it to you. So we're using that exploit to decrypt that information.
Our goal was to have fully encrypted communications and have communications staggered instead of sending information on a time interval, like in beaconing communications, which is easily detectable. So we want to avoid that completely. We also want network traffic of data exfiltration to be consistent with normal browsing behavior, and finally, have some command and control capabilities.
So the communication protocol, we obviously wanted it to be encrypted. So what we do is the client, the one that spies, comes with a public key, RSA 2048 bits. It then, each time it receives data, it randomly generates a 256-bit key. It encrypts that key with the public key. Then whatever intelligence comes in is encrypted with AES 256 EAX. The EAX portion allows us to also have a MAC with the encrypted data, such that we can see if anyone's trying to tamper with our cryptography. So that way, what we send over is the encrypted AES key, which we encrypted with a public RSA key, the MAC for AES, the AES nonce, and the ciphertext. And we transfer that over through either Reddit or Google Drive, depending on the size of the data.
Now, Sierra Server's encryption scheme is similar to that of the Sierra client, but the public key is not pre-supplied because that would result in the private key being saved on the target's local machine, which we want to avoid for security reasons. So we wait for the Sierra client to provide a randomly generated public key, and the Sierra server communicates using that key. If the key has been changed or is invalid for some reason, the Sierra client will ask that the previous command be resent and sends an updated key to the Sierra server. The Sierra server then re-encrypts that command and sends it to the Sierra client. Now, part of our goal was to have some command and control capabilities. So we have buttons on our GUI which allow investigators to request specific information from the Sierra client, such as screenshots. Data retrieval is automatic so that the monitoring agency doesn't need to input any commands to start that process. The data that is stored is fully encrypted, and information is accessed through an easy-to-use interface. So this is our team, and I worked on the webcam captures, the network analysis for Discord, and performing man-in-the-middle attacks to acquire Discord messages. Jordan and I worked on Discord messages together, and he performed the man-in-the-middle attacks to acquire the information from Gmail. He also worked on the Windows registry for man-in-the-middle and worked with Kevin for the packet parsing of the Discord audio. Kevin worked on screenshots, key logging, speaker and microphone recording for the Discord audio, and database and capture testing.
So David actually did a ton of work here, and he did the Sierra server full stack, backend, middleware, and front end. This involved Python for the backend, JavaScript, CSS, and HTML for the front end. He also worked on acquiring the Chrome browsing history. I consolidated all the spyware capabilities into one tool. I also figured out the vulnerability for the password and cookie capture, and I worked and designed the covert communication protocol. So now on to a short demo video kind of showing the back end and the way the communication protocol works. Let me see here. Okay, so here I'm going to start the server. This is a video, but I'll start the server, then I'll start the client, and I'll kind of walk you through how that process goes. So we start the client right now. It sees that it essentially in the background, it runs and sees, hey, did the user browse the internet in the last 5 minutes? Can we check the browsing history for that? He did. Great. Let's exfiltrate. So at that point, it communicates data over to Reddit. The Sierra server is currently waiting to see if a public key arrives. Once the public key arrives, it will dump it to the screen. And we're doing that just to show you how it works. So here we actually have the public key. It received it from the client and it dumped it to the screen to show us that it has it. Then, once we get to it, it receives the actual data. This is not a real login, not a real account, but it sees that there is a saved password on reddit.com with the username hello and the password 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on the client side, we see that a command was sent, and I'll show that in a second. Receive this command A. So let me explain what that means. We're trying to use as little data as possible. So this is some of the code here. A, the very first A, is the data type. In this case, it's the Discord combo right here. This includes textual conversations on Discord. Then there's a dash and another A, which indicates please start recording that, and that's the command. Now let me quickly show you what the network traffic looks like in the background. So if we look at all the messages that were sent, we see that 3 means acknowledge, as in I received the data and I was able to properly decrypt it. If you receive a 4, that means, hey, the crypto key is old, I'm going to send you a new one, please wait. This right here, C means client, G means the cookie, and then it's part 1 out of 1, and this is our key. We're using the timestamp, just epoch will float. And here we have the data. This is base 64 encoded, but if we try to decrypt it, or try to encode it from base 64 to ASCII, we get completely random data, which is the intent, right? Because encrypted data should be indiscernible from pure randomness. If we scroll down, we see this thing that says client key, and then again a timestamp. If we get rid of the base 64, get it to base 10, and or view it in ASCII, we see that that is the public key. This is the same exact public key that we saw in the video right here, if it loads. Oh, come on. This is the same exact public key as here. So that's how we do our communication there. And again, it only occurs when the sorry, let me move this over. When the user browses the internet. So we don't beacon, we just wait until the user goes online.
Okay, so let's talk about our results. We were able to intercept communications from Discord and Gmail. We were able to embed our own HTTPS certificate, get system information, do key logging, screenshots, and webcam captures. And we were able to exfiltrate all that data in an encrypted manner. And the data that is made accessible through a user-friendly interface.
So in conclusion, we're able to covertly monitor data despite any encryption on that data, and we're able to decrypt anything that we needed to, whether it's an attack or a vulnerability exploit. We're able to do this without beaconing. We always encrypt our data such that we can verify that we encrypted it, and we have a nice GUI for the investigators. For future work, what really should be done is someone with lots of money should get a bunch of intrusion detection systems and test the communication protocol against those to see if they're still able to detect it as malicious. Again, all the communication happens over Google Drive and Reddit, which normal people browse. It's not some random link. So it shouldn't be detected, but it would be nice to test it with industry standard software. This would take a couple of months of work. Something that will take even longer would be to see if you can do process injection. Because technically speaking, if you run Task Manager, you'll be able to see the Python script running in the background. So we don't want that. So preferably in the future, you could migrate the process into, say, the Explorer or into SVC host or something else that is normal for Windows such that you can't see the process. And then the ultimate goal really would be to make a rootkit such that you control the kernel. And when you control the kernel, you can control what the end user sees. This would take quite a few years of research, especially for someone with no kernel development experience. So that's on the future, never-ending to-do list. And that concludes our presentation. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you for that. That was a very thorough presentation. I like that you walked us through in the various sections. A very, very interesting topic.
Thank you.
Yes, and curious, with all the research you did, what stands out as cybersecurity concerns for you or cyber security comforts for you based on what you discovered?
Well, a couple of things. The whole Windows, it's not really a vulnerability thing, is only out there for convenience. And the reason why it's there is because Windows doesn't want to have to ask you for you to type in your password each time you open Google Chrome and want to automatically type the password in. But this also means that the encryption is a joke, because if somebody could read the drive, then by definition, they could unlock data. They could just grab your hash. They could break the hash because Windows doesn't use bcrypt. It uses NTLM, which is not a very good hash. And then from there, they'll be able to unlock the data. And if they have any kind of user access, like not privileged, low user, non-admin, they'll be able to decrypt the AES data just by doing clever API calls. And that's egregious. And in terms of the certificate attack, really the frightening thing about that is unless you know every single certificate authority, you can't really defend against it without kind of in a user-friendly way. Really, the way you would defend against it is you'd have some kind of EDR solution on your hosts, and that hopefully whatever company you paid for this EDR solution monitors what kind of certificates are embedded in your system. But the issue is that this isn't something a consumer can really get. So an ordinary person would have to build their own defenses, either by writing scripts to verify that the certificates haven't been updated by an entity other than Microsoft, or they'd have to, each time they visit a website, they'd have to press on the certificate button, look at the issuer, and Google it and see if it exists, which is not exactly a great solution.
Okay. Thanks. Gabriella, did you have a response too, since you guys were tag teaming it?
No, but definitely with the certificates, and just looking at how easily you can generate your own certificate, and if you had access to someone's machine and you could embed that, it is kind of scary, what information they can access.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation and the color scheme and for this topic. Well, so this concludes our presentation today. And so if I may ask you to turn on your camera and to show your face and to everyone and also to the judges, and we'd like to have a round of applause and to everyone, and really good job and congratulations everyone, and of presenting in such a good job and in front of our industry and judges, right? Good job.
It's a good job to everybody. Thank you. Thank you for presenting all that. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you. Good job, and nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, Henry, can I ask you to stop sharing your screen?